Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Morning Market Review. My name is Oluwafemi, and we'll actually be starting in some few minutes. We just want improved participation, and we want others to actually do join us. All right. Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. I believe you can actually hear me. If you can hear me, just send in a message so I can know that you can actually hear me and you are actually following with the class. If you can hear me, just send in a message. Let me know. All right. All right. Mr. Cole said he can actually hear me. All right. Thank you. So we begin today's class and today's edition of our Money Market Review. My name is Oluwafemi and my co-host is actually Anoluwa Dosa. All right. So firstly, we would look at what the market has actually been doing, as well as what we tend to actually achieve for today. All right. And in order for us to actually move forward, we would go to Forest Factory first. Forest Factory first. All right. So I believe you can actually see my screen now and Forest Factory. So for today's edition of Money Market Review, today being Wednesday, we had some news that actually made waves at the early hours of this morning. And some of these particular news are the ones we had for NZD, and which is actually called inflation expectations. And you can actually see that from this particular news, their inflation expectation actually came out lower, which actually tells us of the fact that inflation in this particular region is actually getting reduced day by day. It's getting reduced day by day. And for JPY, for the early hours of this morning, we had what we call leading indicators, and we have the data too. And for 8 o'clock too, the Eurozone data that's talking about the German final CPI. It came out unchanged, which you can actually see that the previous was 0.0, forecast was 0.0, and when it did came out, the actual also came out at 0.0, which actually tells us that there has not been any significant change in this particular economy as regards to the developments happening around here. Then by 8:45, we're going to be having a French trade balance. By 10, Italian retail sales. Then all the events is what we call the Eurogroup meetings. These Eurogroup meetings would actually take around towards the whole day, and I can actually tell you that whatever decisions or policies that actually comes out of this particular meeting would have an effect on the market. It might not have more like a reaching effect, because it depends on how many people have access to that particular information. But if the informations are not really being given as of today, by tomorrow, when the news is actually being captured in the news, I can actually tell you that a market will definitely react to this particular information. Then by 10:30 a.m., we are going to be having Bank of England, Governor Bailey speaking. And one of the few things which they'll be talking about would actually be geared towards how they can actually make their economy get better, how they can actually make their own economy get better. And I can actually tell you that from some of these speeches, talks, minutes, as well as meetings, you get to hear about development in that particular economy, as well as new policies that would actually affect the market. So all this would actually be getting in the market. All right. Then for 11, we have retail sales from the Eurozone also. And by 11:15, FOMC member Cook is going to be speaking. All right. Then tentatively, we have German 10-year bond auction. For 2:30, we have a building permit from the angle of Canadian dollar. That's the Canadian economy. Then by 3:15, you're going to be having Federal Chairman Powell speaking. And you can actually see that this particular news is an high impact news, has been highlighted here. This will definitely make waves and definitely affect the market all through to 7:01. All this particular news, final sales inventories, 10-year bond auction for the angle of USD. And by 7:30, we are going to be having Bank of Canada summary of deliberations. Bank of Canada summary of deliberations. And when we talk about summary of deliberations, about 2 days ago, the Governor Steve Macklem, actually did maintained that they are going to maintain a neutral interest rate. If they are saying that they are going to be maintaining a neutral interest rate, I believe that one of the few things which Bank of Canada tends to highlight us about by 7:30 is actually the summary of all their deliberations, as well as what emanated to they having a neutral interest rate. So we're having this. And by 7:40, we are going to be having a news from the USD zone, 7:40 down to 10:45. FOMC member Williams is going to be speaking. FOMC member Barr is going to be speaking. Federal Open Market Committee member Jefferson is going to be speaking. All these also would have an effect on the market. All right. So moving straight forward into what we have for today, as regards the market. All right. So starting for today, I would actually be starting with dollar index. And when we talk about the dollar index, one thing which you as a person should actually know of is that the dollar index is actually a compendium of or an overall analysis of what the dollar is doing per time. Now, the way in which the dollar index actually works is that it works so you know whether the dollar is having a lot of strength or whether it's actually losing strength. All right. Now, starting from last week when we had the issues as regards the dollar, when the unemployment data as well as every other thing actually did suggested that the dollar is not really doing very fine. We can actually see that there was a sharp decline from the high rise of what the dollar has been doing, and we had this sharp decline ranging towards this particular way. Somebody is actually saying that the news are actually less essential on the market. If you think so, enter into a wrong trade. All right. So every news is actually important and every news is actually necessary when it comes to the market. It depends on the instrument you are using it with. That's what makes it less influential or not. I used to say something before I go forward now. I used to say something. Whether the dollar is dead or not, weak dead, you can't compare the dollar when it's even in its dead state to Nigerian naira when it is in its highest state. So it depends on the instrument you are actually looking out for. All right. Now, what I'm saying, I'm actually looking at the dollar index and actually saying it that we had a sharp decline in dollar index because of the fact that the job report data as well as economic data that came out last week actually suggested that there was more like a downturn in what the dollar has actually been doing, and that's why you can actually see a sharp decline. So there was actually a crack in US dollar strength, and recently now you can actually see that starting from Monday, there was more like towards the end of Monday, there was more like an increase in what the dollar has actually been doing. And this is due to the fact that we had a stronger than expected rise in treasury yields. Stronger than expected rising treasury yields. These are some of the things that actually been given some kind of rise to the dollar at the moment. And also the dollar at the moment, they also did posited that they are not going to be actually increasing their own interest rates anytime soon, which means that they are going to maintain a stable interest rate. And in order for them to actually maintain a stable interest rate, it means they're actually getting hold of their own economy, and that's why you can actually see the dollar doing some kind of rise. Now, one thing is this: on dollar index, you can see some kind of rise, but when you look at it on your currency pairs, you are not really getting that such that strength, just like you want dollar to actually overpower every other currency is actually being paired with. You can't see a kind of jump, but gradually you begin to see that it's actually going up. All right, so let's look at our first instrument for today, and our first instrument for today is the Euro USD. Now you can actually see that from last week, in as much as dollar index actually did collapse, you can actually see the rise in the euro. All right, but when we saw the rise in the euro, this is actually not to say that something significant was happening via the eurozone. Something significant was not happening, because it's not as if how do I call it now? It's not as if something great is happening to their economy or policy wise. Is they only had a significant jump just because dollar index actually collapsed. Now, in as much as dollar index is actually beginning to get some level of strength now, we can actually see that it's beginning to go in a downward direction, going in favor of the dollar. Now, euro only grew on US labor data that actually came out negative last week. That's why euro grew. That's one. Two, when you look at the eurozone, the German industrial production actually declined and fell by 1.4%. This is actually to tell us that the eurozone itself is not really finding it funny. All right. Then also, when you look at Germany, which actually takes up much of what we see from the eurozone, automobile, or do I say the automotive industry, reported a 5% drop. And it's reporting a 5% drop actually tells us of the fact that a lot of things are actually going bad when it comes to the eurozone. Now, the ECB now came in order to actually dispute some of these particular claims. They actually came and now said that they aim for a 2% inflation rate, but they are going to be achieving this by 2025. You see that they have a lot to do. So with this in mind, we can actually see that eurozone has nothing to offer at the moment, and that's why the weakness of the dollar was what led to their rising, not that something happened to them policy-wise. In order for us to actually look at this particular instrument for today, when looking at support and resistance, there is actually more like using my trigger line. This is actually an area of resistance. You can actually enter for a buy at this point why you take your profit before the highest of yesterday. All right, you can enter for a buy if price gets to price level 1.06859. For a buy on Euro USD, enter for a buy at price level 1.06859, while you take your profit at 1.07020. 1.07020. All right, now looking at it for a sell, you can actually see that market is actually selling at the moment, and there is a verified support imminent. Market is going for a sell at the moment, but there is a verified support that is actually imminent. For you to actually, if you are a very good risk taker, I can actually say that enter into the market at present, or do I say current market price? Enter into the market at a current market price, while you can actually take your profit at the lowest of yesterday. That is at 1.06641. 1.06641. If you're a risk taker, enter into the market at current market price, enter for a sell, and take your profits at 0.6641. That's where we have the verified support, which happens to be the lowest for yesterday. All right, you can actually enter into the market. Now, the verified support is at 1.06641. All right, so you can actually do that for Euro USD. You can do that for Euro USD. Now, moving into the next one, which is GBPJPY. Sorry, GBP USD. GBP USD. Now, on GBP USD, there has actually been a series of talks yesterday as regards opening up of the Great Britain economy actually as a whole. And if you happen to look at the news that we had yesterday, you will definitely see that how do I call it now? There was a talk, or the parliament was actually being opened by King Charles. Yes, the parliament was declared open by King Charles yesterday, and there was a lot of deliberations, of which part of the things which they actually looked out for is how Rishi Sunak is going to be moving the economy further. All right, how Rishi Sunak is going to be moving the economy further, and in order for them to actually do some of these things, would definitely be seeing some policy decisions as well as policy makings to make sure that the economy goes back to the pre-COVID era. All right, that the economy goes back to the pre-COVID era. But still, they still maintain, or they still are one of the most strongest economy in terms of what we can actually see at the moment. All right, now on GBP USD, market is actually at a weak support at the moment. Market is at a weak support at the moment. Now, for a sell, allow price to break below the lowest of what we have for yesterday. Allow price break below the lowest of what you have for yesterday. So if price breaks below this area region, you can enter for a sell at price level 1.22582. 1.22582, while you take your profit at price level 1.22378. 1.22582, while you take your profit at price level 1.22378. Alternatively, you can actually enter for a buy if price breaks above price level 1.22822. 1.22822, then you can take your profit at the highest of today, more like where market opened for today. That's at price level 1.23031. 1.23031. All right, now Moving away from that, we are actually entering into USDJPY. USDJPY. At the close of our business last week, price actually for JPY moved lower at price level 149. 149. But for most part of what we've actually seen for this week, we can actually see that the USD has actually gained a gradual increase in strength, and the market has actually gotten to the 150 price region. Market has gotten to the 150 price region, and we're actually expecting that before the close of business for this particular week, markets will actually get to the 151 region. All right, market should actually get to the 151 region. Now, when we look at what is actually ravaging this particular economy, the Japanese economy. Now, news reaching us actually suggested that Asian currencies muted after a rebound in the dollar. Just like we actually posited at the beginning of our lecture for today, that all these things that we are seeing in the market is actually happening because the movement or change in price actually happened last week because of the weak labor data that actually came out from US. But one thing we should have at the back of our mind is that all these things will not hold water for so long. Of course, it is actually US. Now, Asian currencies are actually going back now because of a rebound in dollar. Now, aside from the fact that we have a rebound in dollars, another thing that is actually affecting the Japanese yen at the moment is continued signs of economic weakness from China. Continued signs of economic weakness from China. Now, when you look at the Chinese export data, it fell more than expected, and trade balance actually shrank to 17-month low, which actually tells us of the fact that they are actually importing more than they are actually exporting, of which we know that the Chinese economy is actually an economy that actually exports more. So what's happening? This is actually one of the few things that's affecting the market. All right. Also, when we look at the Japanese yen, it's actually down due to the Bank of Japan's stating that it will maintain its ultra loose policy. Ultra loose policy. Now, when it did maintain some of this ultra loose policy, that's why you can actually see a sharp decline. It was at the point or at the verge of this ultra loose policy that we had this sharp decline. All right, and all these things would not really help the economy to actually grow furthermore. Now, for today on USDJPY, you can actually enter for an instant buy. Yes, you can enter for an instant buy while you take your profit at price level 150.963. Enter for an instant buy and you take your profit at price level 150.963 on USDJPY. Now, for a sell, enter for a sell if price breaks below this untested region at price level 150.496, and you can take your profit at the lowest of yesterday, which is 150.307. Enter for a sell if price breaks below 150.496, while you take your profit at 150.307, which is the lowest for yesterday. Now, USDCAD. Now, for USDCAD, we would see that the Canadian economy has been having some level of challenges. And when we look at the challenges that the Canadian economy has actually been having, one, let me brief you with some of the things that is happening with Canadian dollar. One, Bank of Canada governor expressed concerns over the bank's decision to maintain neutral interest rates. These are some of the issues which the Canadian economy is having at the moment. All right. They want to also have what we call neutral interest rates. All right. Now, and also one of the few things or how they tend to actually achieve this neutral interest rate, which they did talked about, is that they want a potential or gradual increase in borrowing costs that neither accelerates nor hinders economic growth. But how can you say that you want to increase borrowing cost and you would and it will not really affect economic growth? Definitely it will affect the economic growth. So how they tend to achieve their own or maintain their neutral interest rates, I do not seem to understand at the moment. except when further news actually comes out. Then, aside that too, the current rate of interest is 5%. So when you say you want to increase your interest rate, definitely a lot of things will, or a lot of businesses will fall short when it comes to this economy, because it's not about you borrowing, it's about you paying back. All right. Now, also, still build on oil in US stockpile is also affecting Canada at the moment. Take for an example, when we looked at the US oil inventories, it actually showed us that there is more in their stockpile. They have a lot, which means the rate at which oil is actually being used is not really getting so much, is not really encouraging. And one thing we should know is that the Canadian economy is actually a petroeconomical kind of economy, which tells us of the fact that once oil is not really getting itself into so much usage, definitely there's a problem for them. And in as much as price of commodities actually fall, oil is not getting used, weak economic data from China, because these are the people that are actually demanding more of this particular oil. And once their economy is not really doing very fine, they will also have a lot to actually deal with. So for today, we can actually enter for a buy. That is if price breaks below, above rather, the highest of yesterday. That's at price level 1.37860. 1.37860, then you can take your profit at 1.37999. 1.37999. Alternatively, you can enter for a sell. That is if price gets to 1.37678. 1.37678. Then you can take your profit at the lowest of today, at price level 1.37534. 1.37534. All right. Now, let's go to NZDUSD. NZDUSD also has the same pattern, just like GBPUSD, because they're actually in the same region. And whatever happens to NZDUSD, you see the same thing happening to GBPUSD, because they have the same pattern. And also, King Charles also extends his rule down to the New Zealand dollars region. All right. And whatever happens to them also really happens to NZD. So we can actually use the same basis of what is happening to GBPUSD, and you can use the same basis to actually look at what is happening to NZDUSD. All right. So for today, we can actually enter for a buy on NZDUSD if price gets to price level 0.59349. 0.59349. Why you can actually take your profit at price level at the highest of yesterday. That's at price level highest of today rather, price level 0.59409. 0.59409. 0.59409. Can actually take your profit at 0.59409. All right. Then alternatively, for a sell, you can enter for a sell if price breaks below price level 0.59259. 0.59259. 0.59259. Then you can take your profit at price level 0.59176. 0.59176. Lastly, on currencies, let me look at GBPCAD. GBPCAD. In all that we've actually had, we talked about how the change in momentum in China is actually affecting the Canadian dollars. The recent drop in oil prices and the likes, how is actually affecting the Canadian dollars. But irrespective of it too, you can actually see that the Canadian dollar has some level of strength, unlike its Great Britain pounds. At the moment, if you look at the currency strength meter, you can see that the Canadian dollar still has some level of strength even more than the Great Britain pounds at the moment. So for that, you can actually enter for a sell if price gets to 1.68928. 1.68928, then you can take your profit at price level 1.68809 for a sell. 1.68809. All right. Then alternatively for a buy, you can enter for a buy. That is if price gets to price level 1.69071. 1.69071, while you take your profit at price level 1.69238. 1.69238. 1.69238. Now, I move into oil now. Looking at our chart on oil, you discover that there has actually been a monumental decrease. There has actually been a monumental decrease. You can see gradually that monumentally oil has actually been decreasing. But in all of its decrease, you would notice something. And one thing which you would tend to notice is that during the course of the day, there would be a rise, but the low would be more than the rise that we are having. And that's what you can actually see. It moves up a bit, then the next thing is that it has a monumental decrease. It moves up a bit, it has a monumental decrease. It moves up a bit, it has a monumental decrease. You can actually see from our chart now. And you know, all these things happening is not really far-fetched. All these things happening is not really far-fetched. One is that there is actually a worrying demand by oil top consumers, US and China. Now, if the top consumers of oil are actually not demanding oil in its full usage, it tells us of the fact that oil will not do well, because this market is actually geared or guided by what we call the forces of demand and supply. Forces of demand and supply. And in as much as the largest economy that actually demands for this thing are not really demanding for it in their own full capacity, it means there will be a lot. We just have excess supply but little demand, which will definitely crash down the prices of oil. That's one. Two, just like I did posted earlier on, I told you of the fact that when you looked at US inventory for crude oil inventories, they have a lot. They have a lot in their own inventory at the moment, which tells us of the fact that they are not really making use of oil at the moment. That's one. Two is that different economic data coming in from China actually tells us of the fact that China at the moment is exporting more than is importing more than they actually export. And it tells us of the fact that there's actually weak production data. Even when it comes to China, they are not really producing to their capacity, just like we did expected them to do. That's one. Two, what is also happening on oil is that there is actually a less concern about Middle East supply disruptions. Fine, there are actually supply disruptions in the Middle East at the moment, but there's less concern about it. There's less concern about it because once the demand is not high, then there is nothing to worry about when it comes to supply disruptions. All right. That aside, when we look at crude oil production in the US, they actually says that crude oil production in the US will rise slightly. And if crude oil production rise and demands fall, it still tells us the fact that the price of oil will still crash. EIA, International Energy Agency, actually expects petroleum consumption to fall by $3,000 barrels per day, instead of the earlier boost of 100,000 barrels per day production increase, which they actually did posited earlier on. So there will be a 300,000 barrels per day production reversal. So all this actually tells us the fact that oil will actually crash. Oil will actually crash. Then modest recovery in US dollar make oil more expensive for holders of other currencies. Take for an example now, when you look at all these things, a lot of people actually make use of the US dollars in purchase of oil. So in as much as dollar actually is regaining back its own strength, it becomes difficult for them to actually purchase oil in much of those quantities which actually they expected it to actually be. All right. Then when you look at news coming from Russia as well as Saudi Arabia, they actually did talk about supply cuts. Supply cuts. So all these are actually intended to actually make the prices of oil crash further. So for today, would be seeing oil. If you are to enter for a buy on oil, enter if price breaks above price level 81.83. 81.83, then you can take your profit around 82.85. It's a very short buy. You can enter for a buy around price level 81.83, while you take your profit around price level 82.25. Alternatively, you can enter for a sell. You can continue your sell. That is if price gets to price level 81.42. 81.42, while you take your profit at this stone cold support at price level 80.91. 80.91. 80.91. All right. Moving away from oil, let's look into gold. A lot of people are going to be anticipating that we work on gold. Gold. All right. For most part of what we've actually been having, even when the dollar actually did crashed, gold manage. Let me use that language, manage. Gold did manage to get some considerable kind of how do I call it now? It did manage to actually have a bit of a resurgence, like a rise in price, but this was not what we did expected, because it didn't really you know, take too long before we had more like it overpowering all of whatever gains it has actually had. Now look at it now. There was a massive increase or gain in gold, which started on the 1st. That was last Friday or so. It started on the 1st and rallied round down to just the early hours of Monday. And from Monday, it has gone below where that particular rally started from. You can actually see that it has actually even gone below. Look at it. Look at the rate at which it has actually gone. All right. It tells us of the fact that a lot is not really doing well with gold. And one of the few things is that, one, is that we have what we call Middle East tensions, of which that is not a news anymore. I believe everybody should actually be grounded with information as regards Israel and Hamas war at the moment. Israel, the war between Israel, Gaza, Hamas, and the likes. We should actually have equipped ourselves with that. Now, that's one. Two, the fact that oil prices also hit 2.5 months low is also something to also consider on why gold itself is not seen as a suitable or a valuable ease for the dollar. Also, another thing which did affected gold is also economic data from China. These are some of the things. Then gold futures also actually declines. And the only thing which can actually make or see to a rise in the price of gold at the moment is the speech we're actually waiting from the Federal Reserve officials. Once we have the speeches from the Federal Reserve officials for today, we can now say whether the market would be more of in favor of the of gold, or if it would do much more harm to them. All right. Then also there is also a development in gold at the moment. There's a development in gold at the moment. By the time you check your forex factory, you see this development. And the development which we had on gold at the moment is that distributed ledger technology is working on tokenizing gold. Now, it's working on tokenizing gold. All right. And when we talk about tokenizing gold, what that actually did suggested is that they are looking at it counting more like how do I put it now? They want to put a tag on gold whereby you can have it more like a token as a means of purchase and the likes. All right. So all this is what is actually happening to gold at the moment. And in order for you to actually take advantage of gold, for now, you can enter into gold for instant execution. Enter at current market price while you take your profit at price level 1971.02. 1971.02. 1971.02. 1971.02. All right. Then alternatively, for a sell, you can enter for a sell if price gets to 1966.12. 1966.12. 1966.12. Then you can take your profit at price level 1961.32. Let's take it up a bit. 1962.44 rather. You can take your profit around price level 1962.44. 1962.44. 1962.44. Now, moving away from gold, let's look at indices. Let's look at indices. I'll do US 100, US 30, as well as US 2000. And lastly, we'll take DE 30. But I'll be using the same analysis for them, just so you know. All right, so looking at US 100, US 30, as well as US 2000. This particular instrument also did add some level of rise yesterday. It had some level of rise yesterday. And, against the popular opinion, which we know, which actually suggests that once dollar is actually doing very fine, you see indices collapsing, or once the indices is actually doing fine, you see dollar collapsing. Sometimes the market dynamics are actually changing. You can actually see that the rate or the way in which market actually operates or behaves is actually changing. It's actually changing. Now, when I mean it's actually changing, some of the few things which is actually affecting US 100 was that one, there is a company listed on US 100 which is called WeWork. WeWork actually filed for bankruptcy following a post-COVID downturn in demand for office space. Now, WeWork is more or less like an agency that actually provides office space to outlets, to different jobs, different office engagement, and like so they just provide you with an office space. But one thing or one lesson which we did learn from COVID-19 is that it gave individuals ability to actually work from home, hybrid works, or do I say remote works. So in as much as you as a person can actually work from your house, there's no point you as a person renting an office space. So it's actually led to the decline in WeWork gain as well as a market cap. So these are some of the challenges which we're actually having in the market at the moment. Then also, UBS reports its first quarterly loss since UBS actually reported its quarterly loss since 2017 on expenses tied to its shotgun marriage with Credit Suisse. Now, when we talk about UBS, UBS is a global firm. How do I call it now? UBS is a global firm, is a multinational investment bank that actually provides financial services company. It's actually founded and it's actually based in Switzerland. All right. But the fact is that they just acquired Credit Suisse, of which I believe everybody should actually get themselves with what Credit Suisse is. Now, they acquired Credit Suisse, and in as much as they did acquire Credit Suisse, they now have a negative of $785 million loss as a result of that merger and acquisition. Normally when you actually do a merger and acquisition, you actually acquire some of the laws, the debt and like. So this is actually weighing down on US 100 at the moment. Then also, in as much as Chinese import actually grows too, it tells us of the fact that things are not really doing very fine. Then also, Saudi Aramco, their profit actually drops as a result of the fact that oil is not doing as expected. Netflix shares actually did rise, as well as Microsoft, amidst all others that actually been having a disappointment data or figure. So for US 100 for today, we can enter for a sell at price level 15317.99. 15317.99, while you take your profit around price level 15269.88. 15269.88. 15269.88. Then alternatively, you can enter for a buy if price gets to price level 15370.48. 15370.48, while you take your profit at price level 15418.59. 15418.59. Standing on these protocols, I'll just give an entry position on US 2000, since they actually did follow the same thing. All right. So for US 2000, you can enter for a buy at price level 1737.4. 1737.4, while you take your profit at 1741.1. 1737.4, then you can take your profit at 1741.1. Then for a sell, you can enter for a sell at price level 1731.6. 1731.6. 1731.6, then you can take your profit at 1727.9. 1727.9. US 30. For US 30, still following the same pattern. You can enter for a buy at price level 34208. 34208. 34208. Then you take your profit at price level 34249. 34249. 34249. Alternatively, you can enter for a sell at price level 34141. 34141. Then you can take your profit at price level 34093. 34093. Okay, US 100. You can enter for a buy on US 100 at price level 15370. 15370.48. Then your take profit at 15418.59. 15418.59. Then for the sell, 15317.99, while you take your profits at 15269.88. All I'm using majorly is just support and resistance for people who are actually asking what I'm using or why I'm actually taking those decisions. I'm only using the highest of yesterday. If it's a buy, I'll use the highest of yesterday to actually benchmark our own period for today. And if it's a sell, I use the lowest of yesterday. And if there has not been any lowest, I'll use the closest support or resistance region. All right. Now, lastly, I'll go into DE30 for today. Lastly, for today, DE30. DE30. Now, for DE30, we can actually see that DE30 has actually been failing woefully. It has been doing more of a sell since the beginning of this particular week. And it's not really far-fetched. I did made mention of it earlier on while we're actually looking at what's happening on the Eurozone. And one of the few things which we did talked about as regards the Eurozone is the fact that one, the Eurozone only grew based on the fact that US had a disappointing labor data. And aside from the fact that they did a disappointing labor data, one of the few things that can actually project the economy of the Eurozone at the moment is, how do I call it now, is if some of the production companies or some of the companies there are actually producing massively or working up to their own capacity. That's how we know that, oh, fine, the economy is actually good and they're actually doing better. But in as much as we could not really get some of these things, we can't really say that the economy is actually getting better. Now, I said it earlier on that German industrial production declines and fell by 1.4%. So if industrial production could actually fall, it tells us the fact that a lot of things, because once industrial production falls, there is possibility of you retrenching some of your workers. A lot of things will happen in that particular economy. And also, automotive or automobile industry reported 5% drop. It means things are not really, getting well for them in this particular economy. Then, European Central Bank aims for 2% inflation rate by 2025. These are some of the data which we had from this particular region, and these are some of the things affecting the market. All right. So for today on DE30, I'll be looking at this on 30 minutes time frame. Enter for a buy if price gets to price level 15170.0. 15170.0, and you can take your profits at price level 15181.6. 15181.6. Then alternatively, you can enter for a sell if price gets to price level 15153.3. 15153.3. Then you can take the lowest of today as your take profit region, which is at price level 15142.1. 15142.1. So that's that on our today episode of our money market review. And I do believe that we all did enjoy today's class. In case you're having any challenges, difficulties, kindly reach out to your own account officer so that they can actually have help you with that. And in case you're having more like a bad trade that you've actually been nursing or carrying from probably days or months, kindly reach out to your account officer to do them a screenshot. I believe they would be of assistance to actually attend to you and also assist you to look at probably the long-term projection of those particular trades to see whether it's a trade you can actually hold or you can actually just go out of that particular trade. So all this, kindly reach out to your account officer. Also, we are having trainings all around our offices location: Lagos, Abuja, Ibadan, as well as Port Harcourt. And for places where we do not really have an office location, definitely you can reach out to your account officer to ask when we are going to be coming to those locations so that you can actually join us. And also, we have online classes which we do for every of our clients Mondays and Tuesdays from the hours of 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and then from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from the hours of 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Can you reach out to your account officer? They would actually reach out to you. Now, for people who have some trades that have actually called and you see that it's not really going in your direction, just wait. Normally, every trade which you place would actually go in negative at the first. It's later on that your trades will actually go into profit. If you're a risk taker, just leave the trades and just watch it carefully. All right, definitely it will go in your direction. All right, thank you, and do have a wonderful day. Thank you.